Welcome to the From Fear to Fearless show, where we showcase inspiring stories of everyday people who have overcome their fears and accomplished amazing things. Fear is a natural part of growth, but it can also hold us back, especially kids. Our goal is to empower parents and families by sharing these stories to inspire them to encourage their children in their lives to do the same. Get ready to be motivated, encouraged, and inspired to make a positive impact and influence on the kids in your life. Tune in and join us on this journey from fear to fearless. Our guest today is Jaci Finneman. Jaci is a 30-year family counselor turned parenting coach and a founder of No Problem Parenting and the No Problem Parenting podcast. She is committed to helping parents become the confident leader their kids crave them to be. As a parenting coach, speaker, author, and leader, Jaci has more than 40,000 hours of experience working with parents and children affected by trauma, mental health diagnosis, adoption, divorce, and more. Her down to earth, authentic, relatable personality adds light, hope, and clarity to her clients. One of hundreds of first cousins, she enjoys all things baseball, hockey, and dirt. She and her husband of 25 years lives in central Minnesota with their teenage son. Welcome, Jaci. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited to have you on our show.
Well, thanks, Kohila. This is so fun. I'm learning a new technology with this platform. It's brilliant. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do see No Problem Parenting title at the back there. We'll get to your book later. I know you have books, but this show is, as you heard, Jaci, is all about giving parents stories of people like yourself that gone through and passed through a fear, and you overcome. And the other side, there's always something waiting for you that's amazing. So tell me something. So tell me an incident where you had to do that. Share it with us.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning of even Hello World is the name of my company and No Problem Parenting is my brand. But as a family counselor for 20 years, in-home family counselor, we provided all of our services directly in families' homes. So talk about overcoming a fear, walking up to somebody's porch, knocking on their door and going into their home to, on their turf to provide some counseling. That was a fear right there. But I did that job for 20 years and I really loved helping the kids and families, eventually becoming a coordinator, breaking through my fears of being a leader for over 80 therapists and counselors. And I wasn't even degreed. I wasn't one of those licensed people, overcoming that fear. But I got further and further away from helping parents in the day in, day out, everyday struggles within their home. And I got really taxed. I was driving 3,000 to 5,000 miles a month, serving 32 counties within the state of Minnesota. And it just got to be too much. Our son was 7 years old. And I thought, I'm never seeing him. I'm never around. So I need to leave. I need to do something else. But by the grace of a goldfinch that I believe God sent to my window that day, that episode 32 of my podcast shares that whole story. I was able to take the leap, leave my 20-year very successful career to do what is in my heart to do, which is to help parents in their everyday lives, right? Within a month of starting Hello World, I always say to people, I had to go on panic pills. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Leaving this career, stability to start my own company. But with a lot of prayer, a lot of faith, and a lot of support from, my community, friends and family, I endured through that. And the whole point and the whole reason why I wanted to start this company is to help parents who are fearing their child's behavior, their child's outcome, their child's progress, their diagnosis, whatever it is. And so I ended up creating this No Problem Parenting, which does exactly that. It's creates confidence in you, the parent, because the more confident we are, the less we fear those everyday challenges. And even though I have over 100 first cousins from a large family, started babysitting at the age of 9. When we brought our son home, we had a miscarriage a year and a half before he was born. Then we had our son. and he was 5 weeks early, premature, loss of dreams with having to have a C-section and not be able to have a natural delivery. So many fears. So grateful and thankful that he was 7 pounds, 2 ounces, 5 weeks early. He would have been a big boy. He was born, and we brought him home about a week or so later. My husband looked at me and I looked at him, and he said, well, now what do we do? And I said, I don't know. And he said, but you're the counselor. You were the babysitter. You should know what to do. I think just naturally, we, as excited as we are to be parents, there is fear almost every day. We could be afraid of something with parenting, right?
Yes, yes.
But the
Let
more
me, let
support,
me ask you on
yeah,
that one right there,
yeah,
because
go ahead.
we have kids. We're so protective during, especially mom, right? We do everything right as much as possible, as and then and then there is that fear that comes up right after you have that baby. So tell us, that's what you experienced, even though you were working with so many other parents. You had it too.
Yes. But when it's your own and it's your own experience, like we're all different. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's situation is different. And you can hear about all the best resources and, other people's experiences. But when you're actually dealing with it yourself, it can be like you're not experienced, especially when you're a first-time parent. But even as a second or third-time parent, all our children are different, and they all come to us with different personalities, different makeup. And so we're just constantly learning, and what we think we know doesn't always apply to that kiddo. So for us, I just expected to have this baby and come home and know what to do. But 5 weeks early, when he was born 5 weeks early, and he's this tiny little guy and he didn't nurse well, we were constantly punting. And as a mom, when you don't feel like you're making progress with your kiddo, whether it's your baby, your toddler or your teen, you start to beat yourself up and you start to feel like you're doing something wrong. There's something wrong with you. A lot of the parents I work with that have adopted, you adopt because you want to bring a child into your home and provide love and a family that they otherwise wouldn't have. And then when that doesn't go well and they're resisting your attention and your love, you feel like, oh, maybe I wasn't meant to have kids. And that none of that is true. It's that when we don't know what we don't know, and we're just trying to rely on our own skills and experiences, and that's not working, we need to seek support.
Yes.
From experts that do know. And I had to do that in my own life with my son as an infant. And then throughout the years, even as he's grown, with just different things that I didn't look. He has dyslexia. I didn't know how to help with dyslexia. So we found the supports and the skills for that.
Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to add that to, when a child is born, when you do go through these emotions of fear, they can pick up that sense from you, right, as well. So we have to be, as parents, so mindful of as we're going through, right? Because those children are so sensitive to your signals. And
yes, absolutely. And so I just lost you there for a second. I don't know if it faded out. But yes, we do. Our kids are sponges off of us. And even if they can't name it or verbalize it, they can sense if we're not confident or we're afraid or worried about something. So even if we're trying to keep it from them, oftentimes in situations where if it's a 2-parent home and the parents aren't getting along and aren't doing well, but they're trying to not, make that known for the kids can still sense things, and we can start to see behaviors. They can't name it. They can't identify what is wrong or what's going on, but they feel it. Even if the parents are just arguing and not looking towards divorce, but they're just arguing, a child might think, uh-oh, what's wrong with mom and dad?
yes.
And I know that happened with our son when he was younger. And my husband, we both work a lot and had frustrations from work. And here our son was thinking, oh, they're arguing, they're going to get divorced, something bad is happening. And we didn't realize that till, thank goodness, he said something. And then we could assure him, oh, no. So, it's not that you can't argue in front of your kids. It's just sometimes they need to know that they need to see the resolve, after you have made up or have resolved whatever issue, they need to see that side of things too, so that they know you're okay. I
Yeah.
mean, we could get on all kinds of
Oh
subjects.
yeah, because there's this in the psychology too, right? Because as you or someone else is arguing, the people, children who are in like some violent situations with their parents too, what happens is you are exerting those emotions out, but the child cannot do anything, so they're watching and they're bottling it up.
Yes.
So it's not good for them because they're not releasing it, but the mom and dad are releasing it, all of
Yes.
those anger, but they're just sitting and holding it. So that's why over time those children tend to have this extra anger because they never released it, because they witnessed it but they never released it.
That is such a great point.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's so crazy how that works, the fear and the anxiety and the inducing to that child in a family
Yes.
like that. It's crazy. But I want to go back to your conversation about how did you overcome that fear. Let's the business part, let's go back to that business. You said I left something, I started. Now how did
Yes.
you overcome?
Well, a lot of faith, I'll tell you that. And then a lot of learning. I had to look at the things that I didn't know how to do and what I was afraid to do. And I had to figure out how to get more skilled at that. So, in my craft, when I'm working with parents and families, I have all the confidence in the world because that's like my natural God given gift, right? That is what I excel at. But the business side of things and the sales, selling myself side of things, whoa, like whatever, that was made me cringe. And so I had to learn. I had to find the resources and the ways to break through some of the fear of selling myself, right? Putting myself out there, and also of learning the financial side of the business and how to take care of that, which, is still not my favorite. And for the things that I don't like to do or that I don't have as much confidence in doing, that's where you hire support.
Mhm.
And that's what I've had to do over the last 9 years of having my company.
Yes, absolutely. And how did overcoming that fear of, starting your own business, going out and figuring all this out, how have you been able to help others? I think your main focus is parents and kids.
Yes, absolutely. I mostly just see the parents. I hardly ever meet the kids anymore.
Mm.
Where I used to do all in-home family care. Sometimes families will have me come to their house if they're local. Sometimes families on Zoom sessions will have me meet, especially their teenager. Younger kids, they'll come on and say hi, but I'm not doing a lot of work with the kids. My job really is to meet with the parents, teach them what I know, help them practice conversations with their kids or interactions with their kids, so that they can do that with their child, not somebody from the outside doing it. And then the kid, that helps build the relationship with the parent when we can do that. So, but overcoming that, for myself, again, it's practice. It's just putting yourself out there, uh, and trying it and knowing you're going to do it wrong and knowing you're going to fail. Just like when I coach a parent on a certain tip or strategy and a way to have a conversation with their child, I'm like, the first time you do it, it may not go well, and that's okay. In fact, my favorite is when parents stick to, the tip or the strategy, and they actually follow it through, even if they're nervous or upset or whatever, worried about it. And then they come back to me and say, oh, that failed epically. That did not go well. This did, he stormed off to his room, or, he ended up throwing a fit or whatever it was. That's okay. I want to hear about that. Much like within my own business, when I didn't do something right, I learned from my mistake, and then I can do better next time. We learn so much from the actual things we do, and the mistakes we make. And that's so true for our kids.
Yeah. Is it
And
is it really mistakes, or it's an opportunity for it to learn, right? It's always an
abs-
opportunity for it to learn.
yes,
And that's kind of what parents have to feel it as. I mean, because
yeah,
I always say to parents that you never want to harm your kid. That's
mm,
not why you do it.
right,
Sometimes you just don't know, right? For example, my parents, my dad was very critical when I was growing up, right? Everything he said was mean. If I look at it now, nothing was nice. But that's all he knew, though. You know what I
right,
mean? He
yeah,
wasn't doing to hurt me. It was just the way he learned to talk from
yep,
his parents, his conditioning. So that's what we have to feel it as. They parents parent from the place they know, not to hurt. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And speaking of that, when we've been raised maybe in more negative environments or assertive or aggressive environments and stuff, we tend to want to parent our kids differently, which is great.
Mhm.
Obviously, we want to do it different, but we can go overboard. So I say when parents come to me, they're usually doing one of three things wrong, right? You're either being too nice,
Mhm.
too mean, or you're trying to solve a problem that you just don't have the experience in, and you're trying to do that alone. So a lot of times, most of the families that come to me, I'll say, after I hear their story, I say, you guys, I think you're being too nice. And they'll say, no, 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 we yell all the time, we fly off the handle, we're constantly yelling or arguing with our kids. I'm like, yes, and what were you doing before you lost your cool? All
Mhm.
the different things where you were convincing, bribing, giving third chances, doing it for them, making it easier on them, all those nice, 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 nice things until finally they're still not responding and, complying or cooperating. And so then you lose your cool. So then in your head, you're thinking, I'm just this horrible, mean parent. But really, you're not. You are being almost too nice all along. If we can instead be firm and direct and matter of fact, not stern, just firm, direct, and matter of fact, when we ask our kids to do something or we tell them to stop doing something, and we stick to that, even if they throw a fit and get mad, we don't have to get mad. When we do that right from the beginning, they learn our words are gold. They
Mhm.
learn that it's the more mad I get, the more calm mom and dad get. And
Mhm.
it's like, well, this isn't any fun for me anymore, so I'm just going to do it instead. And
Mhm.
so we get a lot more compliance, cooperation, respect,
Yes.
and better relationship with our kids when we can do that. But it's not easy, and that's why it's nice to have somebody that you can lose your cool with, so that you're
Mhm.
not doing that with your kids.
Yes. And more importantly is also like consistency, right? As parents,
Oh,
we kind of go back and forth with our rules. Sometimes and the kids are very good at picking up on those.
they're keen to that. And then that's when they'll push your buttons more and more and more because they're like, well, the last time I threw a fit or begged and pleaded and, pushed and all that, you gave in. So
Mm.
there's a chance you're going to do it again. So I'm just going to keep doing it until you finally, give in. And even if there's a consequence, or even if I have a really crabby parent, it's worth it to me to get what I want. And then sometimes that can even become a habit for the
Yes.
kids. So even though they don't mean to make you mad or tick you off, it becomes a habit. Like, this is how we're supposed to do this,
Yeah. They're looking for that opportunity wherever it is.
Yeah,
they'll,
for sure.
they'll figure it out.
And speaking of fear, anxiety and worry are often related with fear, right?
Mhm.
When we do that nice, 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 and we're coddling our kids and we're trying to make it easier for them and we're trying to bribe them to get them to do things and all that, we actually are creating anxiety in our kids.
Yes.
When we're making, picking up the pieces of their mistakes, when we're the ones talking with the school or the teacher to try to, correct something or make it, make the grade better
Yes.
or the behavior, not, the punishment, not punishment, we don't punish, consequence or whatever, less, we are actually robbing our kids of the opportunity to learn how they can solve their own problems, fix their mistakes and things on
Yes.
their own. And then they learn that from the inside out that they are capable.
Yes.
But if we're constantly doing it for them and making life easier on them, they are less capable. In fact,
Yes.
I just had a man on my podcast not too long ago whose son had committed suicide. And
Mhm.
he shared with me, they have a nonprofit and a foundation. He shared with me that suicide rates in teenagers are much higher in middle and upper class families.
Mhm.
And that kind of surprised me. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, usually lower income families, families in poverty, have struggled a lot more. They're more accepting of services and are more willing of services, right? And will reach out and also have endured hardships much more. So they they can persist. They can
Mhm.
prevail. Where middle and upper class families, sometimes, again, nothing is, a set in stone with not everyone, but those families often have, those kiddos often have things easier. Parents have done a lot, so they don't feel as capable and competent when they go through struggles
Yes.
and hardships.
Yes.
And it's just, I guess, an easier way out for them when they're feeling that desperate. So it was very interesting to learn that, and it does make sense.
It does. And especially going back to what you earlier said was about enabling them, right? We
Mhm.
think we're helping our child, but helping means a structure, right? Giving them the structure and seeing them execute those steps on their
Yes,
own and allowing them to ask us.
yes,
This was a
yes,
hard thing for me to learn. I was like that parent who wanted to do, but I had two stepdaughters. And then after when my son, I had him, I had a new parenting strategy for him, right? And
yeah,
I started letting him, make his own breakfast in the morning at the age of 7. Now
yep,
he's a great cook.
yeah,
My daughters, the other two daughters that I had, they don't even know how to clean the dishes yet. Like, I
yes.
created that. If you think about it at the later stage, you look at it and say, I didn't let them do it.
I know, right? So how can we say, I mean, like, it's the experience of doing it. I mean, and dishes, for instance, sure, all kids would know how to clean dishes, but do they really know? I mean, when our son first started out with that, he was using cold water because he didn't want the hot water. And I said, well, that wasn't getting him clean. So we'd
Mhm.
have to put all the dishes back in and have them start over. I wasn't mad about that. I just said, oh, there's still like some grease on these dishes, or they feel kind of,
Yeah.
kind of dirty yet. Hot water works better. And so he learned that if he only wanted to do the dishes once, he would need to use hotter water, right? Because otherwise they'd go back in and he'd have to do them again. And to me, when I'm communicating that with him, it's like, oh, bummer, I had to do them
Yes.
again. Well, mom, I have, sports to go to. I have something else. Oh, I'm happy to take you to those sports just as soon as the dishes are done.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be late. The first, when you hold your kiddos' feet to the fire and you're not mad about it, you're just like, I know, and you're empathetic and you're bummed out for them. They they don't do it that often then. They remember and think, I better do it right the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, very,
You know?
very clever. Yes, for sure. And same with, as you said, examples about school for parents, right? Allowing them to go ask. They must have their voice, right? With especially at a place like that, that's where they learn to gain a
Yes.
voice for themselves. So speaking for them is something that parents should just stay back and give them the structure or encourage them and have that conversation. How should it go?
Yes.
Rehearse it with them, but they should go do it.
Absolutely. And we did that too with, I mean, when they're in elementary school, you have to be more involved. You
Yes.
need to be there more. But as they get into middle school, that is really, I mean, we should be coaching them in elementary school already to have the conversations and not be afraid of their teachers. But their behavior improves when you do that. So if you have a kiddo who's, maybe acting out a lot in class, but you're talking with the teacher on how to improve that, and you're doing most of that work, and we're doing all, setting up all these accommodations, which accommodations can be good in school for kids, but sometimes they take it too far, and the world doesn't accommodate for us when we get out in the real world very, very well, right? So the kids need to be having those conversations with the teacher, and that sometimes reflects on their grade. And sometimes to the parents, the grade is more important to the parent than to the child. And if that's the case in your home, you're going to have, as the kiddo grows, I mean, it's just a good indicator that you're going to have more issues and struggles with them behaviorally outside of school.
Yes, I wanted to touch on that in our wisdom circle conversation in a bit.
Great.
But I want to ask you this question. This is a very important question that I ask at the end is, what would you like to tell your younger self about fear if you were talking to your younger self?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say continue to trust. No, I would say turn the fear into excitement.
Mm.
It's something I learned later on that I wish I would have known when I was younger. Fear is actually kind of exudes the same energy or the same chemicals and the same as excitement, right? And so turn that fear into excitement. Whatever I'm afraid of, I would say be excited about it, switch the mindset a little bit, and then just go get it. Of course, when I was younger, I had much less fear than when I was older and had more responsibilities.
Yeah, that comes too. But these days, kids, nowadays they're dealing with a lot of different things that you and I haven't even dealt
Yes.
with, right? There's a whole bunch of new stuff, and anxiety is so much present in even like 12-year-old, 10-year-old that I work with. There's so many of them with anxiety, living
They're
in
just they're
fear.
not feeling confident in themselves though. And I think us as adults and parents are setting the stage for that a lot more because we're not encouraging them to take risks or to solve problems on their own with our support.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So is there anything else you want to add to your younger self? So change the fear into excitement. That's
Yes,
one.
change the fear into excitement. And then if
How do you do that? How do you do that? You said mind is set, but how
yeah,
are you
you
doing it?
what is okay, so that's all what no problem parenting does. So I should tell you
Perfect.
that really quick in just 3 steps. We've got a couple of minutes. So
Yes.
the first step is to seek first to understand what's the behavior? What am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of that? What is going on around me? And for parents, I say seek first to understand what your child, the your child, the root of the behavior of the child, but also why are you the parent responding or reacting the way that you are? What's triggering you to be
Mhm.
afraid or fearful of that? Step two is to prepare for the worst. So think about what is the worst thing that could happen, the worst fear. And I mean the worst fear. And then we work backwards from that.
Mhm.
Sometimes the worst fear is, well, they're going to drive recklessly and crash. Okay, that's a big fear. So we need to talk about that. But instead of being afraid of that fear, let's figure out how we can prepare and the
Mhm.
conversations we can have with our kiddo. There are behaviors that we dread and we're afraid of happening on a daily basis that happen day after day after day. Those are things that we can be prepared to respond to so that we don't react. And
Yes.
then step three is to change the conversation. I believe we're giving our kids too much unconditional praise, so
Mhm.
much so that they don't believe it themselves. So I teach a lot about conditional praise first and then unconditional. So facts, conditional praise is facts. So again, if you're fearing something, what is the fact about that fear? What is true and what is not true?
Mhm.
Right? And then what are you good at, or what is going well, or what is positive that's happening? That's conditional, a fact, not just praising unconditionally, like with the good job, you're great, you have friends, whatever else, like the actual factual thing that the child is good at.
Yes.
And then you can pour on that unconditional. Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that. That is awesome. So we're going to continue this conversation in our wisdom circle conversation. So we invite anyone here to join us into that by clicking the green button below. But before we go, thank you, Jaci, for being here. I know you have another book coming out. You let's talk about your book if they want. That's one of your book, right? No parenting, no problem
Yeah, no,
parenting.
no problem parenting. The first volume has 21 authors plus myself. No problem parenting, raising your kiddos with more confidence and less fear. It's
Awesome.
21 authors from around the globe. And you, Kohila, will be in my second book, which again is a continuation of volume one. So
Yes. So this is different parent stories.
it's actual parenting tips and tools. So even if you never reached out to the people in the book, the authors in the book, you're going to get, it's kind of just a good resource for on a variety of parenting subjects that
Perfect.
parents will be able to just open a chapter and say, hey, I'm having issues with my daughter. Where's the mother-daughter chapter? Or my kiddo's nutrition isn't good and they're struggling with their poop. That's one of my favorite chapters in the first book. There's a poop chart in the book, you can teach your kids about if they're drinking enough water or not. They can tell by their poop. And so again, it's
Perfect.
teaching from little age on how to take care of themselves and deal with and
And they can
overcome
find that on Amazon.
the problems. Yep, on Amazon for sure.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you, Jaci. We'll be continuing this conversation. So thank you for tuning into our show. We hope that you found our story with Jaci inspiring and empowering. We'll be right back. We'll be back on next Wednesday at 11 a.m. PST with another episode and another guest. And remember, fear is a natural part of growth and change, but it doesn't have to hold us back. Let's help our kids learn and grow fearlessly by igniting their imagination, inspiring them to take action, and empowering them to see the unlimited possibility that lies on the other side of fear. Together, we can help our children become fearless learners. So let's continue this conversation in our wisdom circle. Join us by clicking the green button below my video here. Thank you. Thank you, Jaci. I'll see you there.
Okay, see you over there.